Prince Harry has proven to be a British royal unlike any other, and today that trend continued. Royals are not known for a lot of overt displays of emotion or taking the stand in a trial to testify. But today we saw Prince Harry do both. The prince took the stand to recount how exploitative news coverage has affected him and his wife, Meghan Markle. He and other high-profile figures, including Elton John, are suing Associated Newspapers, the publisher of tabloids like the Daily Mail, accusing them of getting personal information through illegal means. Associated Newspapers has denied the allegations. This is just one of several lawsuits that Harry has filed against media companies. And the prince was visibly emotional and often very testy today while testifying that tabloids had made his wife's life an absolute misery. At one point, the prince's responses were so combative that the judge rebuked him. It's a sad fact that being a member of the British royal family also means being fodder for the tabloids. The prince remembers all too well how his mother, Princess Diana, died while being pursued by paparazzi. Today, he explained her 1997 death gave him a, quote, uneasy relationship with the press. On the other hand, it's not as if Harry is above using the media for his own ends. He famously went public trashing his own family repeatedly and made a lot of money doing so. And in any case, the question here is not whether the tabloids were too aggressive or too nasty. It's whether they broke the law to get their information. Joining us now to discuss is Kinsley Schofield, a royals expert and host of the Kinsley Schofield Unfiltered podcast, and Neama Rahmani, a legal analyst and former federal prosecutor. Thank you both for being here. Kinsley, I've got a couple questions to start with you before I get to Neama. The headlines coming out of court are not flattering for Harry. The Guardian writes, Prince Harry's emotional testimony offers portrait of privilege and paranoia. Not good news in the court of public opinion.
Agree. And when a judge has to repeatedly tell you to stop arguing with counsel and simply answer the questions, in my opinion, it suggests, this constant 24/7 litigation mindset has become the norm in Harry and Meghan's home. Either that or he's seen too many episodes of Suits.
Yeah. Constant 24/7 litigation, complaining, whining. Kinsley, you say Harry accused the media of intentionally trying to push him toward drugs and alcohol to sell newspapers. It's quite an accusation. But in his own memoir, Spare, in which he trashes his family, he writes in a very lighthearted way about his own enthusiasm for recreational drugs.
Yeah, he discusses chocolate mushrooms in Courtney Cox's refrigerator that he experiments with. He talks in his press tour about ayahuasca, retreats that he does. We'll never forget the infamous TMZ incident. So that it's hard for us to reconcile that particular claim.
What's the TMZ incident?
Remember Naked in Vegas? He was caught naked in Vegas with a bunch of, ladies, and there were some photographs that were released at the time.
Thank you, Kinsley, for reminding us of that. Neama, the charge here is that the tabloid broke the law to get personal information on Harry. The prince argued that some of the details published could only have come from tapping his phone. But that's not evidence, that's opinion, right?
Well, there's liability and there's damages here. So the prince is arguing that the bugging was unlawful of his home and vehicle and voicemails.
Well, he doesn't know the bug. He didn't find a bug. He's just saying nobody would have told anybody that. They had to have bugged me.
Well, and that's what's being disputed. The Daily Mail and the defense here is saying that they got this information legitimately from leaks in the prince's inner circle. So that's certainly a liability hurdle that the plaintiffs are going to have to clear, but there's certainly others who are going to testify to the same. We have Elizabeth Hurley testifying as early as tomorrow, Elton John. I think the cumulative effect of the plaintiffs will get them across the finish line because we've seen them be successful in previous cases against other British newspapers and tabloids. I think today, though, Elizabeth, was more about the damages and the emotional testimony because, of course, the prince doesn't need the money. He's trying to send a message here. It's like the baseball equivalent of throwing high and inside.
I don't know. I think there might be some questions about whether or not he needs the money. He has been spending a lot of money, and the couple can't seem to figure out a way to earn any money.
Well, the previous claim reportedly settled for a substantial sum. It hasn't been disclosed, but there have been reports that it was north of 10 million pounds. And there was a previous judgment, certainly not as much as the prince would have liked. But again, I think this is more personal than financial from the prince. Just reading the tea leaves in his testimony today, so emotional, so combative. And I think one important thing to note here, Kinsley touched upon this a little bit, is in the UK, it is the judge that makes the decision. There's no jury in these types of cases. So you have to know your audience, and you have to be very careful when you're testifying in these types of cases.
Yeah, Kinsley, Harry got particularly upset on the stand today when he spoke about his wife, Meghan Markle, saying the media made his wife's life an absolute misery. You noted that this comment has nothing to do with this case. This case is about stories that happened years before Harry ever met Meghan. And P.S., polls show the British, like many Americans, hold Meghan Markle in low regard.
And what's striking to me is that Harry's testimony undercuts the narrative he and Meghan Markle pushed in their 2022 Netflix series, where they place much of the blame for press leaks on the royal institution and family members. So as the defense is standing there going, "Are you sure there are no leaks?" and Harry saying, "Absolutely not, there can't be leaks." Well, let's turn on that Netflix series and watch you and your wife accuse the British royal family of leaking against the two of you.
Neama, what are press laws like in Britain? Can the Daily Mail be forced to? The Daily Mail is saying we didn't bug anybody's phone. We had people inside Harry's inner circle. His friends were giving us this information or selling us this information. Harry says no way, they would never have done that. Can the Daily Mail be forced to reveal their sources?
Well, first, I want to address the point that you raised. You're absolutely right about Meghan Markle. I mean, these are allegations dating back from 1993 to 2011. They didn't even start dating until 2016, so that's entirely irrelevant.
Right.
But the laws are more favorable to plaintiffs in these types of cases. One big difference in the United States, we have the First Amendment that protects the press. And also, you have to prove malice if you are a public figure. You don't necessarily have to do that in the UK. That's why a lot of people like to file these types of claims there in the UK. But again, because there is no jury system, I would be surprised if someone who voluntarily before 2020 puts themselves out in a public life, like you said, has a Netflix series, they're going to get a lot of damages from a judge in a case like this, because again, they don't strike me as very sympathetic plaintiffs.
Harry and Meghan don't.
No, not at all. Even though the laws are more favorable, I can't see them getting a big judgment in this case. Again, unless the conduct is very egregious. It's going to be interesting to see, especially when it comes to the medical records, what comes out, Elizabeth.
Yeah, Kinsley, you know, there's news this week that Meghan Markle's show on Netflix is officially canceled. It was a bomb, did not do well. There is, you know, Neama makes a good point. Prince Harry has won against two newspapers, but at some point, are people getting tired of all the whining and complaining and litigating from a man who was born into such privilege and wealth and who doesn't appear to have a job or do anything?
Yeah, Brooklyn Beckham, are you listening?
Yeah.
I do think that people are getting sick and tired. And whether he wins this or not, my hope is that it brings him some sense of closure and allows him to focus on his future and figure out what he truly wants to do with himself. He's built a beautiful life for his family in California with all of this litigation, with all of his earnings from litigation. But he's sacrificing irreplaceable time with his children to pursue this.
Yeah, and obviously has no relationship with much of his own family, or her own family for that matter. Kinsley Schofield, Neama Rahmani, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.